This is a show about relationships made for the weirdos, introverts, and artists who love people, conversation, and learning to embrace who they are instead of molding to what the normies want from you. Let's begin the show.
Yes! Yes!
So what's going
on?
Oh no, wait, hold on. I think I didn't mute myself.
So what's going on?
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm like the worst producer for my own show. No, I did it. I had my stream on. I was the one that didn't mute. You see? It's rules it's rules for you and not for me. I don't know the actual phrase, but you get it. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. I love doing this.
I just want to let you know that you are the breath of fresh air for me on the internet. Seriously, like
I'm glad to hear it.
First of all, I don't know how you're able to stomach watching so much crap and then being able to respond to it in as calm as you do, because it as a coach, it like genuinely, it upsets me and it hurts me and it makes me cringe and it makes me mad to see how fast like unhealthy values and advice has been spread in the past few years on the internet. So you really are the breath of fresh air for me. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's get into it, but I try to be somebody who who allows other people to like watch this and just like have that moment of like relief where they're like, oh, okay, so like, for lack of a better phrase, not all men are terrible.
Yeah. I hope so. So for everybody watching right now, if you don't already know, this is a very great man, Dr. James B. Stein. Did I pronounce that right?
Perfect.
Nice. James Stein is, and let me know if this is right as well. You are a doctor of relationships.
Yeah, in so many words. That's for all intents and purposes. Yeah, my degree is in the study of human communication with a special focus on interpersonal communication with an even more special focus on relational communication.
Got it.
So, I'm a professor. I teach courses on relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, you could say that.
All right, cool. Just to let everybody know, you have released, I would say the word tons of peer-reviewed journal publications on relationships. Is that correct?
Well, me personally, I've only published about a dozen pieces since like 2018, which is like, which is decent. But what I try to do is I try to involve not only my own research in my social media presence, but also accessing a ton of other research, not only from communication studies, but from other disciplines, because I think it's really, really important to be interdisciplinary when you're dunking on misogynists.
Great. Okay. Also, over 160,000 followers on TikTok with millions of views and over 4 million likes. College professor who's taught classes such as interpersonal communication, nonverbal communication, conflict and negotiation, small group communication, and a bunch more. A podcast called Red Rock Relationships, and on TikTok, a dunker of misogynists, red pill, and alt-right. What am I? Did I miss anything?
Dog dad.
Dog
That's
dad,
important.
nice. Hair king. It's tied back right now, but
It's a
usually,
funny story.
yeah.
It is, yeah, and yeah, it's a funny story because I've been open about this on my channel. I've had hair restoration surgery. So the hair is real. It's 100% real. It's all mine. But for a minute there, I was thinning at the top. It was tough. Tough. I was fortunate enough to be in a good financial position where I could afford that sort of surgery.
I appreciate your clarification and your authenticity in that. Regardless, the name still stands. So basically, for everyone watching right now, I have some stuff planned with Dr. Stein, but I just thought it would be fun for us to chit chat. It seems like we're kind of both in a similar, we both have like a similar purpose, I think, on the internet. I want to basically help educate people on having healthy relationships. The only difference is I'm just some schmuck and you are you're a real doctor and a professor. And that's why I want you to come on to my show so you could help me talk about this stuff. But something else interesting that I thought we could do, and let me know if this is okay with you, is I asked my audience, what are their red pill arguments that they have that they can't seem to, they can't seem to get rid of. It's the type of thing where it's like, oh, I learned this and I don't, this sounds pretty legitimate to me based on what Rollo Tomasamo or whoever has said it. And I'm okay at, explaining and addressing some of the arguments, but you're really good. And obviously it's because this is literally like what you study, what you teach is relationships. So when you hear bullshit, I'm assuming it's pretty easy for you to just, be able to address it instantly in a well-spoken way. Where for me, I have to like hem and haw for a couple of minutes and kind of think about stuff and kind of really want to figure out a way to formulate what I want to say. So I thought that would be a fun idea. What do you think?
Oh, I am 100% down.
Nice. Okay. And perhaps maybe even have a couple of my viewers come up on Zoom and maybe ask you a question.
Of course. I'm a man of the people, as they say.
Nice. Very nice. But first, I just want to ask you, like, I'm 37. I've been like a dating and relationship coach for like 15, 16 years. Like I've been following the dating world for a pretty long while. Like I've seen the whole like pickup artist movement, and that to me at least was soft compared to kind of like what I'm seeing with this red pill movement that's kind of come up from the flames, from the ashes of that. It seems to be a lot more viral for young men and a lot of men, but obviously young men mostly. And I think the reason is because they make it seem like it's really backed up by science, but then what science are they referring to? I don't know, but like that's their sell, is like, this is rational, logical, scienceful. And so I think that is kind of what grows it. And also it's that self-righteous victimhood that I think is also feeding the beast in each person that follows it, because it makes them go, yeah, it's not my fault. It's women's fault. It's these people's fault. And so that I think also kind of makes it more viral rather than just kind of like silly men in big fluffy hats and, looking, ridiculous, not because they like looking ridiculous, but because they think that's going to get them, have women attracted to them, and give all of these different pieces of advice pickup artists did, but they didn't really go, oh, well, this is backed up by my science, blah, blah, blah. And I'm guessing that's what it is, but I'm wondering, are you seeing something similar to what I am? And if so, why do you think it is?
Well, it's a long story, but we're now at the point where we can no longer talk about the red pill without also talking about the black pill. And so I don't know if this is something that you're familiar with, but it needs to be talked about.
Okay.
So the red pill, I mean, for those who don't know, it's super basic. The red pill is a reference to the Matrix from 1999. And it basically says that, like, if you take the red pill, you will, become awakened to this true reality that you didn't see. And kind of like you were saying before, that reality for a lot of these men is that society is controlled by women, and that men are the real victims, and they've conditioned you into thinking that they're the victims through toxic femininity, or whatever buzzword they're using that day. But the black pill is so much more dangerous. The black pill is essentially relational determinism, where, okay, relationships are predetermined. Like, you were either born an alpha or you were born a beta. You were either born attractive or you born ugly. And women are born to choose certain types of men. You're not one of those men. A troll who would take the red pill, and something like a school shooter who's going to take the black pill. Isolation, complete disenfranchisement, a full detachment from society, coupled with the loudest voices you've ever heard on the internet egging them on. If you think back, for example, to the awful massacre that occurred in a black church, it was live streamed on 8kun with a bunch of people saying, he did it, he did it, he did it. I can't believe it's such a good job, man.
Wow.
It's really, really messed up. And so we can no longer talk about the red pill and the black pill independently, because what's happening is much in the way that there's a pipeline from a guy like Jordan Peterson into becoming full-on red pill. There is now an extension of that pipeline that takes us exactly from the red pill to the black pill, and that's where violence happens. So we need to be really careful about that.
Yeah. And I never really knew the differences, exact differences, but I kind of did throw them into the same, because honestly, like, I really don't think there's that much organization there. I really just think it's like whatever sounds appealing, intriguing is what they'll want to say. And so if it's the newest thing that they come up with, whether it has a black pill thing or if it has a red pill thing, and I guess it's the us versus them. I guess it's that it makes them people feel like there's a structure to the world, and now I see what the world is like, rather than just being given some advice. And hey, this advice might work and it might not work. It certainly works for these guys on the internet, but I don't know if it works for me. But to say, no, this is how the world works, I guess that's a lot more intriguing to people.
It's more sinister.
Yeah. So the thing about Jordan Peterson is, like, he like, there's a lot of people, and I'll bet you there's a lot of people listening right now that are watching this that are fans of Jordan Peterson, and maybe they haven't gone too far into what he has taught and say, well, I read his stuff and it seems really great, and I don't know what's wrong with it. And those people might not even realize that some stuff they read is pretty toxic. But, he talks a lot about gender roles. Do you have anything to say about what Jordan Peterson says about gender roles?
It's so funny. I do have a couple of things. For those who don't know, I've made several videos about him, including like a 6-part TikTok saga aimed to say Jordan Peterson's his biggest thing is that he wants to convince his listeners that he is an expert on everything. I mean, I imagine we all saw the Joe Rogan interview recently where he talked about the climate. He's not a climate scientist. Why are you talking about climate?
Yeah.
That's not your area of expertise. Same goes for relationships. His history, he studied alcoholism, hereditary alcoholism for the large majority of his career. And then he moved on to a very well-known phenomenon in psychology called the Big Five personality traits. I forget what they are. It's like extroversion, neuroticism, a couple of other things like that. And loosely, adjacently, he looked at some things like gender roles, probably a study here or there where somebody looked at close relationships, but he's not an expert on that. And there are ways of uncovering that really only an academic could put their finger on. So for example, he's got over 100, you talk about a guy with a ton of publications, over 100 publications, but over the course of the last 8 years, he's only got 1 or 2 publications in which he was the first author. When you're the first author, that's a big deal. It means it's your program of research. He hasn't first authored anything in years. He's just essentially jumping on the backs of his grad students who want the name recognition of publishing with him, not doing very much work, and throwing his name on there to make it look like he's very accomplished and published. And this is a grift. This is all part of a grift. So when it comes to him talking about things like gender norms, he has no more or less input per se than like the talking about existing extant research. Then it would be worth listening to because he's well enough trained in research methods that, if he presents a citation, you can imagine that he knows, the basics of that citation, but he doesn't do that. And so therefore his opinion is not an expert. He's not speaking as an expert. He's just speaking as an individual. And Jordan Peterson, the jerk who doesn't know what he's talking about, it's like that Venn diagram is a circle for the people who follow him. And it's not necessarily their fault. They're victims of his grift. So, if you appreciate what he has to say, the first thing that you need to ask yourself is, I wonder where he got that information from. That will take you to where you need to go to understand that he's mostly full of shit.
To anybody in the live chat right now, if anybody does follow Jordan Peterson and you have any, you've learned something from him that you find maybe some people may have disagreed with or something like that, put it in the live chat right now so, we could pick them out. But one thing that I notice that he talks about a lot is that this idea of like chaos and how women are chaos. What is that? Where has he researched this?
So he hasn't. This is classic red pill language. So I'm glad you brought it up because this idea of we are immersed in chaos, like that is red pill philosophy 101. It is the world is crazy. You are smart. You are special, right? You understand the world. You're living in this chaos, but you have the ability to understand it. And what we must understand is, and then, whatever misogynistic trope he wants to throw in, that's how you get that's how he peppers it in so that you don't get fully indoctrinated.
Yes.
But, and he is the catalyst for this pipeline that takes you down the road of red pill. It starts with, oh, well, that's a really good point. And then the next thing you know, you're calling people like a beta male, which by the way, I love the ironic name of the podcast. I love the ironic title of this episode. It's very, very Ben Shapiro. I love it.
Thank you.
But that's how it starts. It's like Rome wasn't built in a day. Like the incel community did not just pop out of nowhere. It was a very slow indoctrination process.
Okay. And when he talks about, you know what? Actually, I'd love to bring up one red pill talking point that one of my viewers brought up. Let's just dive into it. I'm going to make these statements as they have. These are talking points. These are beliefs that they seem to that they can't deny. What well, basic red pill dating rules are all men want sex and all women want time, money, status, and attention. So is that true? And if so, where did this come from? Was this studied?
Yeah. So I want to start at the very beginning. The short answer is that is a misdirected, misappropriated set of assumptions, because what they're talking about is the bioevolutionary theory of mate selection. And what they're saying is that, bioevolutionary theory basically dictates that men want to reproduce, and because they don't get pregnant, it is best, right, for them to go out and, for lack of a better term, spread their seed amongst as many uterus owners as possible. Alternatively, women are motivated by money and status because they want to keep that man there, right? Because they, when they're giving birth, they need someone to take care of the baby. They need somebody to help them. Now, has to do with something called pair bonding, and it's an evolutionary principle that explains why humans and other mammals, by the way, tend to gravitate toward monogamy. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that if there are two caretakers for an offspring, evolutionarily, right, not in the modern world, evolutionarily, which is where this conversation is located, two humans raising their offspring, that offspring is going to have a better chance of survival. So we are, in that same way, we are biologically motivated to raise our offspring as both fathers and mothers. Second, and more importantly, this argument, the entire goal structure that they're describing, is what we would refer to as distal, as in far away. We are so many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years removed from our evolutionary needs. Like we know, like we have like fire and electricity and chairs, and like what they're talking about is so primitive that you would have to be operating in a society where the average IQ is below 40. Like you'd have to be so primal and primitive to have such a singular view of relational interest. And so those are distal goals. Like, yes, ultimately, yeah, sure, we want to reproduce, we want to mate, okay, good, we want protection, like Maslow's hierarchy, yeah, that's all the way at the bottom, great. But in 2022, that does not manifest in terms of behavior. Like that's not what's influencing our behavior. It is far removed, both chronologically and like psychologically from a motivation standpoint. So that argument has absolutely no standing in modern society.
Okay. So what would you say if somebody said, well, we still have the same brains as those people back then, the cavemen or whatever. We have the same exact brains despite how society is different. Don't we have the same drives?
I'd say in a way, yes. But if you're here to argue that we behave the same way that we behaved 40,000 years ago when our brains reached the point where they're at now, I mean, you would be hard pressed to find someone who's willing to defend that. The idea that humans behave today the way that they behaved 40,000 years ago, we don't even behave the same way today that we behaved 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And you go back, you take a look at popular culture, you take a look at social and societal norms, completely different in the year 2002 versus 2022.
Yes.
2022, yeah. So the idea that, yes, we have the same brains, yes, we have the same bodies, sure. But again, we're not necessarily talking about brain structure. We're talking about societal impact and societal choices. And at the end of the day, men and women both want sex. Like men and women are both interested in resources. So even if what you're saying is true, there's no evidence to dictate that there are biological markers that create a difference in motivation or desire for men and women. Certainly not in the way that someone articulating that argument would put out.
And I just find it so interesting that people that talk about that stuff, they kind of make these rules, and maybe that the culture in which they live, maybe there are some people that prove their, ideas right. But that when something might happen for you in a certain time in your life, that doesn't mean that that's all people now. That means everybody. That means that this woman believes it and this man thinks like this. Because, it, at least for me, and this is also why it's so weird to see these types of videos, is it's clear as day that men and women's and all genders, we all have such a varying degree of and different wants and needs. Some men are like this, some women are like this. And the men that and another thing is, like, many men that don't match like the red pill philosophy can be very successful in dating and relationships. Many women that don't match the red pill philosophy can be very successful in dating and relationships. But it seems as though when those are brought up, it's, that's just a bad example. That doesn't, that's an anomaly or whatever. It's weird how it's hard for them to move away from their confirmation bias.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because don't forget, in order for them to do that, and I speak as somebody who was drifting toward this pipeline during my late teens, right? So I can speak from personal experience on this. Like, I was not raised in a bleeding heart liberal household. I was raised in a Rush Limbaugh household.
Oh, wow.
So I am familiar with these talking points. The point is, confronting your own biases is difficult, but it's easier when you can turn around and access decades of research and scholarship and a bunch of people who know what they're talking about. You can unlearn that sort of thing. The issue is if you're willing to or not. And a lot of these dudes, it takes effort to do that sort of thing. And so they would rather take that effort and put it into defending their preconceived notions. And so this is how you get people who speak in absolutes, kind of like what you were saying, like, well, men do this and women do that. But anyone who studies, or most folks, I should say, who study these phenomena, especially if you have research in the humanities or social sciences, you don't speak in causal language ever. Yeah. You say things like, people tend to do this, or it might be that, or one possible explanation. And so this is another thing that I would say to folks. If you hear somebody speaking in super causal terms like that, who might be trying to get you to just agree with them rather than to actually learn or come to some sort of understanding about a given topic. So you're going to want to watch out for that.
I love that. That's great. And it kind of brings me to a question, and, maybe we could even just spitball, but, like, what do you think is the best way for people like us to, be the answer, or to be the alternative to all of this stuff that we see on the internet? Because it seems like the red pill stuff is so addicting to want to agree with. The people that talk about it, they tend to put on this machismo personality that makes it even more, like, alluring. What do you think is the solution to get more people to kind of have an alternative?
Yeah. Well, first, I really appreciate the way that you described it as an addiction. And to just draw a quick parallel here, you often hear these men talking about women. They get this rush of dopamine when you like their picture on Instagram. And, there's research to indicate that people tend to, that pleasure center does light up when we experience good things in social media. But what's very interesting about that is that they say that and then ignore the fact that they're in a room of people liking and commenting and agreeing with them, and that they're experiencing that very same rush, the very same sort of stimuli, except instead of people liking an attractive picture of you, it's people, agreeing with your worldview. So there's that. Now, in terms of being like the answer, that's really tough, because I have a long history, longer than I care to admit, of interacting with these folks. In my we'll call them virtual travels, in my travels, they do not tend to respond to the research. So I like to give folks the benefit of the doubt, and I remain perpetually let down by their response. And so what I learned, and this is both like a marketing thing in terms of, also just in terms of like me being fed up with this bullshit, the only language that these guys speak is the language of humiliationism. They want to humiliate women. Yeah. They want to humiliate men like me, to put my hair up in a bun or paint my nails, or, you know, that I'm, you know, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, a lot of these guys don't want to be convinced. And there are a few who do. I've had some gentlemen comment or message me saying, like, I'm really glad for this. Like, you've taught me about some of my misconceptions, and I thank you for that. And that's wonderful. But for the most part, these guys, they're not interested in moving. And so the best thing that we can do is expose their bullshit to potential victims. Because we're not going to change the red pill guy with a following of 500,000 people on TikTok. But some of those 500,000 people might see this person who they're following get humiliated and see someone, you know, using research to better explicate the phenomenon that they thought that they knew about. And they don't even have to follow me or agree with what I'm saying. Getting them to unfollow, it's as simple as that. I consider that a success. So there's multiple reasons or ways in which we can do this, but we're not often going to see it. So in that ways, it can be a thankless job.
Yeah. But I mean, I see your comments, and I see how fast you grow. And I mean, especially for me, I mean, like, watching your videos, if I wasn't already, on your side, I mean, you just have this remarkable way, and it's largely because you are able to cite so many, articles, and evidence supporting your case that really helps. Where, you know, I think people just get lost in just strongly stated opinions, and when you bring so much, like, just one of your TikToks will have like easily 10 articles that you're citing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's too much.
Sometimes it does get out of hand. Sometimes it does get out of hand every once in a while.
By the way, if I wanted to refer to a journal on something I'm interested in, how would I do that in an easy way?
Oh, I'm so the amount of people who do not understand the resources that the internet has provided to them. There's a website called Google. We know this, right? There's also a website called Google Scholar. It's scholar.google.com. And when you search something in that, every time it will give you peer-reviewed results. You never have to worry about the authenticity of what you're searching there. So G Scholar is easily accessible. Now, the problem is a lot of those articles are behind a paywall. There are some ways around that. Like, for example, there's a website called SciHub, SCI-HUB. You copy and paste article titles or DOI numbers in there, and it will give you the full article. So there are ways around paywalls if you're willing to do the research or, you know, put the hours in. But just at the basic level, you'll always be able to at least get like an abstract. Okay. Or like even like a title or an author name that you can then later pursue. I really recommend using G Scholar. Got it. It's simple, it's fast, it's easy.
Great. You ready for some more red pill talking points?
Oh, hell yeah.
Here's one. Why is it that women seem to unconsciously manipulate men in relationships by being emotional?
Ooh, I love that. I love the emotional part. So I would first have questions. Or like, where did you learn? I would take like a more Socratic method to this one. Who told you that? From what source did you hear that? Is this your lived experience? Because the last thing I want to do is invalidate your lived experience. You may feel manipulated in your relationships, and this happens to people all the time. But anecdote should never inform policy. Just because you've had an unfortunate experience does not necessarily mean that this is how humans act. Although sometimes if you're betrayed, it can feel that way. I'll give you an example. My first 3 serious relationships, I was cheated on in all 3 of them. And that can lead to like a defeatist mentality of like, well, this is just what women do. And so saying like, oh, well, women are manipulative in that way. My next question would be how? In what way? Explain it to me. Be specific. Give me examples. And then we can unpack those examples one by one. And then finally, I would say, when you say emotional, what are you talking? Are you talking about the experiencing of emotions or the expressing of emotions? Because what I would argue is it's not that women are being overly emotional. It's that you have been trained not to express the emotions that you're feeling, which likely makes the women in your life feel invalidated. And when people feel invalidated, they tend to react with more, what's the word I'm looking for? More gusto in the face of an ordinary or a mundane situation than they normally would. And they're not being overly emotional because they're manipulating you. They're being overly emotional because they feel like you're not listening. They feel like you're invalidating their existence. That's going to piss people off. So again, it's a series of questions and then a series of necessary reflections of how did we get here? Why do you feel this way? But yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that as emotional as their claims are about women, a lot of their assertions are coming from emotion themselves. Like you said, you were cheated on 3 times, so that would lead somebody to go, all women are like this. And where does that come from? That doesn't come from facts and logic. That comes from an emotion you felt that led you to want to believe something.
Yeah. And also don't forget the societal constraints that teach us that those sorts of emotions ought not to be experienced. We're not supposed to cry when we get cheated on. We're supposed to get angry and punch a wall, right? Like, you ever watch a grown man play Fortnite and you're going to tell me that men aren't just as emotional as women? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird because when I step back, it's like in fact, I would say men are, if anything, I would say I see more emotional men in the world than women. But anyway, okay, next one. Here's an interesting one. How do you explain the phenomenon of fangirls of serial killers? If red pill isn't real, Dr. Stein.
So why true crime now, as it's typically asked?
Okay.
So again, this comes down to, I guess, what you would call sample size. So when you say that there's a group of women who are attracted to serial killers, how big is that group vis-a-vis the population of women? Are there not groups of women who are attracted to a variety of other niche categories? Because I mean, if you look, I mean, Richard Ramirez, Charles Manson, I love serial killers. Richard Ramirez, Charles Manson, all of them, the biggest names, they all had these parties of people who worshiped them. And they were made up of, I don't know, a couple of dozen people out of everyone in the country. So just because you're seeing a phenomenon, that does not mean that it is indicative or that it is related to the greater sense of population. I guarantee you, I would stake my life on the fact that there are more women attracted to bakers than there are attracted to serial killers. You bake a cake. I baked cookies for the first time the other day. You should have seen, I had my girlfriend in the palm of my hand. After, by the way, fun fact, I promise her I'd mention this. She told me, she said, wow, I can't wait for you to destroy my pussy later on with facts and logic. So that's what.
Wait, after she saw this title?
Yes. Yeah, because she's watching, or she was watching. She might have gotten tired of the sound of my voice.
Okay. Let's see.
Well, can I just mention, do you notice what I did right there? Like, I used a rhetorical technique that's designed to get you away from the problematic thought, right? We started by talking about the problematic nature of women who are attracted to serial killers. And I would argue that, like, if you fetishize serial killers, there's some work that needs to be done. There's some unpacking that needs to occur.
Yeah.
But I took us from there to cookies.
Yeah.
In like 3 sentences. And that's something that you can do to a step, because everybody loves cookies. Everybody loves that sort of, you can reach out to people and establish commonality like that and get them away from those dangerous thoughts and talking more about stuff that we have in common. That's going to make you seem a little bit more credible, a little bit more easygoing. And so I don't do that on TikTok, but for the people in your lives, that's a useful tactic.
I like that. It's better than when people say, you have to be a dangerous man or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. You have to be competitive in order to be on the top of a hierarchy, any kind of hierarchy, to be chosen by women.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say this, like the current status of our hierarchical power structure, like in Western culture, is problematic in and of itself. And again, I think that is something that a lot of like red-pilled people would agree with you on. They'd be like, yeah, it probably shouldn't be structured like that. But if that were true, if you really had to be on the top of the hierarchy, my follow-up question would be like, what percentage of men are we talking here? 5%, 10%, 15%, something like that? Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
If 5 to 15% of men were the only men getting in relationships, the only men having sex, the only men reproducing, we would be extinct. Like we have no chance if we've only got 5 to 15% of our men reproducing. And if the response to that is, oh, well, they're impregnating a bunch of women, like, it's 5 to 15% of men impregnating 80 to 90% of the women. That person's too far gone, right? That is a full on delusion.
Yeah.
Especially since in our super capitalistic hierarchical society, those folks who are like way up at the tippy top, they're not interacting with the rest of us, right? They don't care about us. They care about them and their bubble and their life. So there's no statistical evidence to demonstrate that phenomenon is real. And you can just break it down simply. If it were 5 to 15% of all men at the top doing all of this, we would be hemorrhaging humans like as a population. But we're not. We're growing, and that's because men and women and everyone in between of all shapes and sizes and classes and races and genders be fucking.
But for those top of the percentage men, I mean, that would be also an awful lot of child support to pay.
Yeah, you talk about wealth redistribution, right? Maybe get a little wealth tax in there. That would probably be a little bit better financially for this country. But yeah, no, we're not experiencing that.
So then I guess it would bring me to a question is, then how do you explain all of these incels that don't date, that don't hook up? What's going on with them? If there are so many people reproducing of all shapes and sizes, then what is up with so many incels?
Sure. So the best way that I can help explain that phenomenon is the fact that the internet can be a very loud echo chamber. So first of all, it can make it seem like there are more incels than there are. Like, for example, you look at like a red-pilled creator on a social media app, and they've got a following of 200,000 people, and you're like, oh my God, 200,000 people. That is less than 1/10 of 1% of the population, right? That is such a small number, but it's a real phenomenon. The incel culture is a real phenomenon. And the best way that I can describe it is that, sometimes men are taught to only strive for a certain type of potential partner. And when that specific type of person rejects them, they don't go elsewhere. They don't reflect on themselves. They don't talk about the things that they could have done to make themselves more attractive. They just say, women are terrible and I'll never find a woman, right? And that's how you transfer from red pill to black pill. I'll never get a woman because there's just no way. And truthfully, and I don't want to be too harsh here, but a lot of it comes down to laziness.
Yeah.
The inability to self-reflect. And this is, by the way, this is how you get toxic gym bro culture too, because they say, you're not getting women because you're being lazy. You need to get up and motivate yourself, and you need to exercise. You need to get into the best shape of your life, bro. But what happens is you do all the physical work to make yourself look nice, but you're still hollow on the inside because you didn't do any of the emotional or psychological work necessary to cope with the fact that your personality sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to there's so much more work to be done on the social elements of incel culture than there are on like the physical appearance. Like, have you ever watched, like, I don't even know, like there are shows on TLC that will show you like people who just, you wouldn't think that they're able to find love, and then they are, and you're like, man, if they can find love, what am I doing wrong? And the answer is usually you're acting like trash.
Yeah. I mean, you've said so many true things. I wanted to respond to all of them, but I can't even remember most of it anymore. But I'm gonna pick one. One thing that I talk about a lot is that, you know, when somebody, it doesn't matter what gender, but if we're talking about red pill men, they spend a lot of their youth pining over the popular girl. Regardless if the popular girl has anything to do with them whatsoever in terms of personality, interests, whatever. Then, you know, because they don't get to date that popular girl, and the internet tells them that they get rejected by them, but when they've probably never even spoken to her. But then they grow up and they still want the idea of the popular girl. And why? I believe, and you could tell me, it's for feelings of validation. It's for feelings of power. It's for feelings of, you know, like pleasing the young high school boy that you were. But it has zero to do with attraction. And I believe that a lot of people are confused with the word attraction and the word need for validation. And I think attraction is pretty specific. It's a feeling. It is a pull towards somebody. It is that, I'm sure everybody's felt it at least once, where when you're with somebody and you're connecting and you're having a great time and you're just feeling this pull towards each other. To me, that's attraction. It's also when you get aroused by somebody, when you're with them, when you're interacting with them. However, the feeling, if you see that pretty woman at the club that looked maybe like the popular girl in high school, and you're standing there and your friends are saying, hey, go talk to her, and you feel that pain on the inside, that squeeze in the chest, I think people think that's attraction. I used to think that was attraction. To me, that's not attraction. That's a need for validation that I don't have, and I want it. And I feel that scarcity of not having it. And I've been told that that's me being attracted to her. And so often what I like to talk about is saying, find people that you're actually attracted to, that you're sexually attracted to, and stop focusing on validating yourself from this person that you have always wanted because you feel it will bring you this status from what your three friends that will think you're the man because you're dating this girl that they think is attractive in some way. And that to me is a big part of this, the anger towards women that they're not even really attracted to.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to unpack like the different types of attraction that exist. I mean, there's physical attraction, there's sexual attraction, there's task attraction or resource attraction, there's social attraction where you just like a person's personality, right? And so I think you hit the nail on the head. It comes down to what you might call a Madonna complex, where you view women as either Madonna or a whore. And if they're not a Madonna, the minute that they're not Madonna anymore, now they're a whore, right? So it's that woman at the bar. Oh my God, she's perfect. She's amazing, right? And you walk up to her. Hey, can I get your number? Oh, you know what? No, thank you. Right? No explanation. Oh, no, thank you. Yeah. Now she is the worst person in the world because she had the audacity to strike you down. Yeah. And like you said, it becomes about validation at that point.
Yeah. And then comes the red pill rationalization. Well, she didn't like you because she is hardwired to want status, money, popular, whatever it is. That makes them feel better about themselves, rationalizes why maybe you just don't have the social skills yet. Maybe you don't even really like that person and you weren't exhibiting a certain vibe that would be welcoming because you actually were interested. Yeah. Listen, that's why I also am so big, and everybody that follows me is probably annoyed by now of how much I push finding your tribe. Go to the communities where you share their interests. Because if you are passionate about something and you find somebody else that's passionate about the same thing, it's very unlikely that you're going to feel nervous blabbing about that topic for 10 hours straight. If you meet somebody and you guys both like, I don't know, like horses, riding horses, and you just love that thing and you find that community, it's pretty likely if you meet somebody that you could potentially be a partner with and you guys both have that interest, you're going to be excited. You're going to have that welcoming demeanor and wanting to talk about it and inviting that topic with that person rather than going up to somebody in the club that you have no relation to, no context for actually connecting with, and then saying, hey, what's up? Well, if they say, I don't want to talk to you, well, okay. Well, why would they want to talk to you? What's the reason? There's a million people, there's a million people they could talk to that month. So why does it have to be you? Yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget, there's also a million people that you can talk to as well. And I think that for a lot of these young men who are traveling down the red pill pipeline, their biggest fear above all else is rejection. And like, man, you need to experience rejection. It's so important. I spent like my entire childhood losing competitions and getting rejected and not experiencing any of that sort of success. And it just teaches you that this is normal. It happens to everybody. And, you'll get past it. And next time you'll know how to do it a little bit better. And the same goes for the dating scene. This Madonna complex is a self-fulfilling prophecy because they build women up, with the halo effect, which we could talk about if you want to, but they build the idea of this ideal person up. And they have no experience in any form of dating at all. And so how are you going to be able to get like this woman of your dreams if you've never even figured out what those dreams are? Like, you think you might be into the idea of one thing, but then it turns out that like you're a huge Star Wars nerd, and what you want is somebody to sit there and watch Star Wars with, because that Madonna's not into Star Wars. I mean, maybe she is, who knows? But like, it's like you said, you really need to be interest forward, have interests, be able to talk about interests and connect with people based on those interests, and also be okay with the fact that you might connect with someone and it could just be platonic. And it doesn't go anywhere, but you still have a valuable relationship in your life, which gets me back to one of the important things that I always stress. Young men and boys do not have enough women that they idolize in their lives. There are not enough women, especially not women of color, who they can look up to and say, wow, that woman is a strong competitor, or wow, that woman is a great like nurturer or caretaker. Like, we don't have enough of that. And the more of that we have, the better these, red pill guys are going to be at understanding that like men and women aren't all that different. Yeah. Behaviorally, we're very similar.
And I'm going to bring up a real big taboo thing. Becoming friends with women in general. That's something that a lot of men don't experience. And you know, it's kind of like racism too, where it's like the most racist people are the people that are not around the race that they hate. And, you know, I found the most misogynistic, sexist men, the people that have the biggest ideas about how women are so different are the ones that have very, very little relationship with women in general. Just don't know who they are when they talk to them. It's why it kind of is mind blowing when I hear all these things that women are. They're hardwired. Like it's like, I know a ton of women. They're not like that. They're not like that at all.
Yeah. And, you know, of course, I know a ton of women who are nothing like that at all. And my one anecdotal experience shouldn't inform the general population. That said, neither should, you know, anyone red pilled person's perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Next, women like Chads because they symbolize high testosterone.
First of all, like, women hate Chads. Hate, capital H, capital E, hate. Like, and I don't mean to overgeneralize here, but it's just like has a set of eyes. Like, this one is so common sense. Like, nobody wants somebody whose entire personality is testosterone. Nobody wants somebody whose entire personality is any one thing, period. And that doesn't mean you can't be a gym rat. Like, you know, I try to exercise most days of the week. You know, I appreciate that sort of thing. You know, but the issue is, if you think that somebody is into somebody else because they have like high T levels, that's inherently flawed. Some people, some women, some heterosexual women prefer men who are like big and muscular and bulky. And some prefer men like me who are like slim, and some prefer a dude with a beer belly or a dad bod. And that just speaks to the individual preference. And so the minute you start talking about testosterone, I'm going to start asking a ton of questions. Like, what empirical evidence do you have to show that testosterone makes people more attractive? And can you show me those data so that I can look at them? Because I've had people send me references on that before, and I looked into them. And as somebody who's trained to study regression models, I have to go back to these folks and say, those data don't say what you think they do. And in case you think I'm lying, here's where the authors explicitly say that it doesn't mean what you're saying that it means. Because authors like that will always put caveats in their research saying something like, now, this doesn't mean that more testosterone means more attractive. What it means is, and then they'll explain themselves. So that's something that, you know, again, if you start talking about testosterone and attraction, I'm going to start asking questions about methods and measures instantly.
Yeah, exactly. What if you have too much testosterone? Is that even better?
It's extremely unhealthy. Yeah, that'll kill you. I mean, if you look, for example, at the ways in which, like, bodybuilders, the ways in which their bodies are ripped to shreds. Look at what happened to Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
So depressing. He knows he did it to himself. It's terrible when you put your body through something that it's not meant to go through. And I see dozens of young men on my college campus every day. It's very clear that they're taking performance enhancing substances. And, you know, I just hope that they understand that it's going to destroy their body later on in life. And odds are most of those guys are just hanging out with their bros at the gym anyway. I don't think that they're exactly big pimpin', for lack of a better term.
Okay, now what about alpha males? So alpha males, I would say, like, a general idea, it's a definite that everyone's heard about, is they are men that lead other men. And so women are attracted to alphas, men that lead other men. That's true, right? All women.
That is 100%
That's
false
what turns them
in
on.
every way that a statement can be false. So are you familiar with David Meach?
No.
So David Meach is a I don't know if it was zoologist or a wildlife biologist. He's the one who coined the term alpha male.
Okay.
And he was writing about wolves in captive. And what he found is that if you put wolves in a captive space, like in a cage or at the zoo, they have these toxic patterns of interaction where one wolf tends to emerge as this alpha. It's the most violent, it's the most dominant, it attacks, it's in the wild. He found that it was actually the most feminine wolves, the most nurturing and caregiving wolves that were the leaders of their pack. And there's actually a TikTok for like the American Wolf Society of America or whatever, and they have a great video talking all about this. But David Meach himself has published multiple articles and editorial notes saying, please stop using the term alpha male. I fucked up in my research. He's spent the last 15 years trying to correct himself. I feel bad for him, to be honest, because what's happened is these guys have taken that one misinformed study and applied it to a completely different species under completely different circumstances. Yeah. And again, it's a validation thing. It's a way of saying, I am a leader, you are not. I'm going to manifest this idea of leadership. And then finally, that's going to get me the women that I've been so desperately craving my whole life. And for a couple of them, maybe they do have some dating success, and that's wonderful, whatever. But for most of these men, these self-proclaimed alphas, it reminds me of the song, Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster. Like, real gangsters don't flex nuts because real gangsters know they got them. And the same goes for being like, the research on leadership tells us that the most successful leaders are the people who do not want that power, who aren't interested in the leadership role, and who are kind of like pushed into it by other people because they're like, no, you should do it. You're a good leader. I can get that, those citations if you want, though.
Oh, that's interesting.
For your followers. But yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon. And another thing that really might bother some of these alpha men is that, like, not to pat myself on the back, but I exhibit pretty much every quality that they claim to value. I am the chair of the department in my university. I am a homeowner. I'm in good financial standing. I'm in, not for nothing, I'm in fairly good shape. I exercise quite frequently, and I am currently in a loving relationship and have been very successful in previous relationships and on the in the dating field, without giving away too many details. But of course, if I were to tell them that, they would either call me a liar, or they would say that I was like the exception that proves the rule, or some ridiculous thing that false because I falsified their supposedly unfalsifiable argument.
Something, as you were talking about this, I was thinking, is it perhaps that, well, one, it seems that a lot of the people that are following the red pill it's a lot of younger men. Would you agree, or would you say that it's equally throughout age?
It would appear to be mostly younger men. I think that the older gentlemen who espouse these hateful beliefs, I think that they are more, and I hate to say this, they're more traditional misogynists, right? Yeah. They're not like all men do this, all women do this. They're more like the type of guy to like disregard a woman because she's a woman, or think that a woman cannot do what a man can do. But they don't go out here giving this like dogma. I don't have any data to support that, but judging on like Jordan Peterson's following and Ben Shapiro's following, it's a lot of young white men.
Yeah, and the older men that are, it's more conservative values that they're basically trying to follow.
Yeah, traditional family.
I was thinking, it's like maybe it's because, like, listen, when I see high schoolers, I mean, they are definitely immature and a lot more brash. They're a lot louder. They're a lot more insulting to each other. And it does seem like in those circles, like it feels more true to those red pill ideals, especially to a guy that, probably just plays video games, goes home, and that's all he does all day. And then he might see like, the jocks pushing each other around and getting the cheerleader, and that says, oh, well, that fits everything that I've been learning on the internet. And that's what I'm trying to figure out why this has gotten so popular, because, when somebody turns 25 years old, even 27, I feel like all of those things will start melting away, and they start going, yeah, I kind of just want to be with somebody that I like and I'm attracted to, and I just want to be with somebody that likes me and is attracted to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'm guessing. Maybe it's just the high school culture that is kind of feeding that philosophy.
Yeah, I actually think it goes a little bit deeper than that. So first, there's the element of toxic masculinity, right? This idea that, like, men have to be tough, and men, like you were saying earlier, like, of course the cheerleader is going to go out with the athlete. They have shared interests. They hang out together. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in theater, like I was, I didn't know any of the cheerleaders. Like, I didn't hang out with the cheerleaders. I hung out with the theater kids. Yep. So I went out on dates with the theater kids, like that. Like, that's just, like, again, shared interest. But what really makes me nervous, and I think this is something that needs to be talked about more, including by myself, a lot of these high school boys will see their classmates, who are women and girls, will see them dating older men, and they'll go, oh man, older guys get all the chicks. Women just want the resources that older men bring them. They want what these men have to offer because they're alphas. But what we're not fucking talking about is that these are grown ass men acting as predators on young girls. Yeah. 25, 26, 30-year-olds approaching girls who just turned 18. And, much in the way that young boys are malleable, so are young girls and women. Like, the younger you are, the more naive you are, the more manipulatable you can be. And unfortunately, there's a lot of older men who take advantage of that because they feel scorned from their high school years where they weren't, getting any interaction. It's extremely terrible. And there's, like, a really upsetting niche on social media where women can, like, unpack their problematic age gap relationships from when they were younger. And it is rough to hear the stories that they have to, because these are girls who were preyed upon by grownups. And what happens is the red pill, they take that and they twist it, and they somehow blame a teenage girl for a 35-year-old's actions. It's really weird.
Yes. And I've heard about that stuff too. Okay, next. Women are hypergamous in nature. Yeah,
so hypergamy is referring to the desire to marry up or to date above one's social status. And that's great, but what they don't talk about is the obverse of hypergamy, which is hypogamy. Hypergamy exists. Hypogamy exists. Sometimes you date a little bit up, sometimes you date a little bit down. For the most part, we tend to be the most attracted to and the most willing to engage in relationships with folks who match us. And this harkens back to something called matching hypothesis, which basically says, and I'm going to be really primitive about this, but it basically says, if you're on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're a 7, you're more likely to be attracted to and to go out with a 7 than you are a 10. Traditionally, we would assume, well, you want the 10, right? But the data tell us that not only are we most likely to go out with the 7, we actually find that 7 to be the most attractive. We perceive them as similar to us. And that is something that encourages interaction and encourages attraction. So does hypergamy exist? Of course, it's an observable phenomenon. It's real. But to take the phenomenon of hypergamy and attach it to the experience of being a woman, this idea of if you are a woman, you long to be hypergamous, that's silly. That's silly because hypogamy also exists. And because, again, matching hypothesis, which has been proven proven to be an accurate representation of human attraction time and time again. And I use that word prove carefully. It is as solidified as you can get. This tells us that people tend to be a little bit more in line with their own status, their own interests, as opposed to desperately seeking someone who's above us.
Okay, so I saw a video title and thumbnail by the channel The Rational Male, and the title of the video was very simple. Men value love, women love value.
Yeah. That's a tough take. It's an especially tough take because of how hypocritical it is.
Yeah.
The idea that men value love, I mean, that goes against all of the alpha male bullshit, doesn't it? Like you're supposed to be a man. You're supposed to be tough.
Yeah.
You're supposed to value picking heavy things up and then putting them back down. You're supposed to value, you're supposed to, you're supposed to clean your room, right? You're supposed to do these things for self-fulfillment. And nowhere in that equation does meaningful connection come into play. But when it comes to besmirching women as an entire gender, now we're willing to say, oh, well, all we want is love. This is a chronic problem of the red pill community, to simultaneously victimize and canonize themselves. They want to be a victim and they want to be a hero at the exact same time, right? It's unreal. And, you know, titles like that really speak to it's paper thin, the shallow nature of these men and the way that they handle themselves, but they are aware of their target audience, and that is a problem. I wish they were dumber so that they didn't know who they were appealing to. Yeah. And by the way, I'll say one more thing. All those dating coaches, all those alpha men on social media, you can look at, I guarantee you, look at all of their followings, look at the demographics of their followings. You're going to be 90 to 97% men every single time. Yeah. Every single time. So they're speaking to men about women, and none of the women are sticking around for that conversation, which is problematic. Yeah. It's
I wonder if they ever wondered why it's mostly men that follow them. Okay. So this is taken from a recent podcast by one of my favorite podcasts. Maybe you've heard of it. Fresh and Fit. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Oh, we love the Fresh and Fit. Myron Gaines is a personal. I use him for target practice. Let's say that.
Which I found isn't even his real name. But regardless of that, he said in so many words on that, I think, Brittany Renner interview, men are allowed to be unfaithful because to them, sex is like going pee, and women are... I'm sorry, it's hard to get through that. Women aren't allowed to be faithful because sex is more emotional for them and it's more important to them. So that's why they can't. Yeah. I thought you were gonna say for women, sex is like taking a poop, and I was like, no way. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he would say something like that.
Yeah. I actually know the origins of this talking point very, very well. It's related to studies of the release of oxytocin during sex. And here's the interesting thing about oxytocin, which is colloquially referred to as the love drug. Oxytocin spikes during sex for women and also for men. Testosterone spikes during sex for men and also for women. Testosterone also spikes for women when they're on their period. The idea that every time a woman has sex, it is an emotional experience does two things. First of all, it glorifies the penis. My dick was so good that she couldn't contain her emotions. So again, canonizing, self-canonizing. The second thing it does is it provides an easy escape for men who don't have sex, because they say, well, I would have sex all the time as I could because, you know, for me, it's just like going pee. But for women, it's this big emotional experience. So the reason that I don't have sex with women is because it's such a big endeavor for them that they don't want to get caught up in their emotions. For me, the man with the magical dick, when in reality, you're just unappealing. Your personality is unappealing, you know? Nobody wants to, it doesn't matter like size or physicality or stamina. That all goes out of the window if you are a garbage can, you know?
Okay, so I agree. So I could bring a couple people on. They're waiting on Zoom right now. And they'd love to ask you a few questions. And I think Matthias...
I'd be happy to entertain.
Oh, great. And I think Matthias was the first one. So I'm going to bring him on right now. Oh, and by the way, Matthias, while we're waiting, he's on the other side of the world right now. So it's about 4 a.m. or something like that for him.
Oh.
So it's about... Hey, buddy.
Wow. Well, I'm flattered that you'd wake up at 4 a.m. to listen to me.
So, are you guys able to see each other?
Yep, I got him.
Great. And Matthias, just make sure that you mute the stream so that doesn't bleed into the microphone.
Yeah. I think.
I hear myself.
I think it should be muted right now. You hear yourself?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Well, you know what?
Well,
I'm gonna stop talking, and if I hear it again, No, I definitely hear myself now.
Wait,
I
what?
hear it too.
Well,
Matthias, are you playing the live stream somewhere?
yeah, but I've muted it on my. I
Really?
muted.
All right, let's ignore it because it's not that loud, so it's not that annoying. Have you been listening to me and Dr. Stein chatting in this past hour?
Yeah.
Cool. And what do you think so far?
I think it's pretty interesting actually, because the whole mindset of the red pillars is just I just don't understand it, because to me it seems like there's just something off about the whole mindset, which is really hard to wrap my brain around. And I don't know. I just get this like really, it's actually hard to explain, to be honest, because it's like I just don't understand like how people are so narrow-sighted, if that's the correct word.
Do you have any questions for him?
Yeah, I actually do, because I actually had a pretty interesting discussion on YouTube lately or earlier, which was I don't know if you have heard about Courtney Ryan before.
I've heard of Courtney Ryan.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think I have.
You don't? Okay. You should really get her on the podcast though, because like you guys really, I think you guys could have a really interesting conversation.
Cool.
But yeah, the question is though, because so I'll read from the comment section, and I just want to hear you guys' opinion, because I have a feeling that this guy might either have the red pill mindset, or that he perhaps just lacks or is really scared of something. So I'm gonna read this to you, and let me know what you think.
Okay.
So I wrote, I like to just go by the vibe of the situation. Also, I think it is important to emphasize that girls can be very nervous too. If you got the confidence, try to release the potential tension with something funny. From my experience, you can tell whether or not she wants you to make a move. Be direct and honest with her. Most girls most girls like a guy who isn't afraid to show his vulnerabilities and etc. And remember, you don't need to be an expert to read the room or the signs. The more relaxed you are, the better it will feel. Smile, laugh, and enjoy the date. Compliment her too if there is something particular about her you noticed. And don't go all Joe Goldberg on her, and you should be all good. Invite her out for coffee and make sure to grab a burger too. And don't forget to make it cheesy. That should set you up. And I got this really interesting comment that said, "No thanks. Most of men, me included, are not interested anymore to make the first move. Do you know what does it mean when you make the first move? It means that you're giving her the power to decide to reject you because she assumes that she's the prize. So you want guys to make the first move in order to be rejected. First must learn how it feels to be rejected. They must be rejected so many times as possible in order to understand how it feels when a man is making the first move and get rejected." And I replied back and said, "It is about your mindset and the fear, the lack of confidence and the fear behind it. Rejection actually is a good thing, as it is an opportunity to learn and grow, I suppose." And he replied back by saying, "What? Being rejected all the time is a good thing for you? Are you out of your mind? It's not about of being rejected 1 or 2 times and then being accepted and loved by 10 or 20 people. So you don't understand nothing about rejection, and you don't understand because you don't know nothing." So I want your take on this, because I don't know what he's on about, to be honest.
I think that when people say things like that, it's like we were talking about earlier. These red-pilled men are terrified of rejection, and I would be willing to wager a fair bit of money that the person who said that to you has not experienced anywhere near as much rejection as they claim to have. I think what may have happened is they may have built up fictional rejections in their mind. "Oh, I would never ask her out because this is what she would say to me. I'm not even going to bother." And then they chalk that up as rejection, when in reality, it's them kind of, it's that fear of rejection driving the behavior in question. Because, that scenario that you described, it sounds like fun. Go out for a burger, say something funny, try to relax, right? It's kind of oxymoronic, but just try to relax. And dating is like any other muscle. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more you get rejected, the better you get at handling rejection. And so when someone says, "I've been rejected by 100 women," I say to myself, "No, you haven't. Because if you had, you would be humbled." Right? That's my take on that.
Yeah. I actually, my personal opinion on that is actually maybe not simple, but again, I think being rejected is an opportunity to actually grow and learn from it, because I used to have the whole alpha male mindset years ago. I'm 27 now. No, sorry, I'm actually 26. I've lost count. But I used to have the whole alpha male mindset earlier, and I used to tell girls "Oh, you're such an alpha girl," and when I think of it in retrospect, I'm like, I just don't understand what was going through my head, because you could actually tell from her response and her body language that well, what the fuck is this guy on about? Alpha male? I'm just being myself. And I also love this saying, Tywin Lannister said in Game of Thrones, a king that must say that he is a king is no true king. And I follow Courtney Ryan a lot, and she has this saying that a true alpha doesn't need to say he is an alpha. He shows it by action and by doing it with love. And I think that it's kind of weird, like the difference. Like I've never been to America before, by the way, but from what I've seen on the internet and what I see here in my country, in Norway, the difference is so major. Like it is so big because people here seem to like, I don't know, they just seem more open to it. They're just a lot more open to it. They don't have like this red pill mentality, I guess, which is kind of good, or not kind of, but it's very good because I think the whole red pill thing is so destructive and toxic in ways that, like, I mean, like what happened? Well, like, how did they learn about this whole thing? I mean, why aren't they able to actually see it through the lines and actually realize that playing games, like playing mind games, like ghosting and all that stuff, like, what the fuck is the point with that? I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's self-defeating and confusing in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Matthias. We're going to bring in somebody else right now, but I want to thank you for staying. What time is it over there?
It's 4:30 in the morning.
Thank you. And did you stay up
Good
for
morning.
this?
What?
Did you stay up for this?
Yeah, I really had to this time. I really missed you guys. So, and again, it's an opportunity to learn and grow, and that's what I'm all about.
Thanks so much.
I want to
buddy.
learn as much as I can, and you guys are giving me the opportunity, and I must seize it. I must seize.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you again, buddy.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Get good sleep. All right.
Well, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Much love.
Okay. Do you have any time for a couple more? Do you have to go? I know it's getting late for you over there.
I could take one or two more.
Okay,
and then
cool.
I got to do my yoga. I got to do my
All right,
beta male
cool.
yoga.
All right. So let's see how it goes, and you just let me know. All right. So we're gonna bring in, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but I'm gonna try Onyinye. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. All right, I'm gonna ask to start video. Onyinye coming in. All right, well, while we're waiting for Onyinye, I'd like to, add on to the rejection thing, because I think it is such a big thing. And I would say about rejection, I think when people are so concerned with rejection, I think they're interested in too much too soon. And what I mean by that is, when you're getting rejected, what do they usually mean while they're getting rejected? They usually mean you weren't attracted to me, or you don't want me sexually, or you don't want to go on a date with me. And to me, I don't think you should be thinking about that shit in the first few seconds. I think that's crazy to think about when you're just going up to somebody. You know what I'm thinking about when I'm going up to somebody? Oh, that person has like nice shoes. Oh, that's a cool haircut. Oh, I like how you did that, like a trick on your skateboard. I don't know, whatever it is. And my ask is, hey, I want to talk to you for like 10 seconds. And I don't know how I'm going to feel once I talk to you for 10 seconds. So all I ask is for 10 seconds. And if the 10 seconds goes well and I enjoy myself, and that obviously that part of that is that person enjoying themselves, I'd say, oh, well, now I kind of want to talk for a little bit more. I would introduce myself, ask if I could sit down, and then see if I want more. But about like being sexually attracted to each other or going on a date, I mean, to me, that's a little later on once I actually get to know the person. And I think so many people get so caught up in this, like, they need to accept me for all of these things. They don't know who I am. I don't know who they are. And it's 3 seconds. It's like, well, of course you're going to have this big, like, wash of negative emotions on you when you go up to the person and they don't want to talk, or they don't want to hug you and smile and laugh at you in the first few seconds, because in your head there's all of this acceptance that you're needing from the start. I would say just ask small things. Why would you want more things unless the reason why you want to go up is to satiate some insecurities, some desires, for using that person as basically a tool to make you feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, let's see if we like each other.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, these men tell on themselves. It's an issue.
Yeah. And so I say, I don't ever get rejected because I'm never looking to be accepted at the level that they're looking to be so early on. All right, it looks like Onyinye is not able to turn on their video, so I'm going to bring in Marcus the Woo. Good friend of the show here.
Nice.
And Marcus is connecting to audio.
I loved the introduction, Marcus. Thank you. Okay.
So,
I know.
Yeah, take it away.
Okay. So funny, when you said they haven't been rejected so much, or else they'd be humble, I cackled, head back, mouth open, cackle. So I haven't heard, I'm not on TikTok, but I'm the same age as Anthony. I'm 37, so I'm not on TikTok, but I haven't, but today I'm definitely going to follow, because there's so much negative stuff and hatred in the, dating sphere. But okay, I know you said you only had a couple of questions. So I have 4. So I wonder if it's okay if I could just say them to you. You could just choose the 1 or 2 or whatever that you're willing to ask. Is that okay? Okay. So
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So 1, in studying Red Pill, I learned that in the beginning, it was sort of started by like a woman, and it was like a general community. I could be wrong, but like reading articles is general community, where it's women, and it wasn't so much like Red Pill today. It was just people talking about their general dissatisfaction in the dating market. It was a lot less toxic, but then this toxic element came in and overcame the community. And I was wondering, since the community's changed, if you were able to like see the original community, and if there really was a big difference in the feel or like the nature of the communities, because different reading articles about it, but instead of like going into the community. So that's 1. Number 2, slightly lighter response, beyond Red Pill, just like with all of your experience, what is like the one thing that you wish more people realized about like relationships, like trying to get in relationships or something? Okay, so, and number 3, actually, I was actually discussing this on another channel where I don't know if you talk about this, but like Fresh and Fit, it's called like the manosphere, and kind of like the Black internet and Black spaces. And a good point was made that Red Pill is still like, see, I have 2 monitors, sorry, so I'm looking here. Red Pill is still seen as on the fringes of society, on mainstream culture. Even if like someone is like saying all the talking points, they'll generally say, oh, but I'm not into that. However, like kind of the manosphere is like kind of like the Black version. It's mainstream. Like with you saying, like, look at the followers of a lot of people in manosphere. It's a lot of women. It's a lot of older people. It's like more mainstream. amongst in the Black community, and so it was brought up that it was interesting that the idea that's still considered on the fringe is super mainstream, and like Fresh and Fit is part of like the manosphere. Kevin Samuels is a part of manosphere. He like came viral for humiliating a Black woman. So like people like them. So that is my third question. And no, that's good. 3.
Well, I think that if we go in reverse order, like I'm very familiar with the manosphere. I understand like the whole Kevin Samuels phenomenon is upsetting and disturbing. I actually try not to. So let me say this differently. I try to keep my nose out of the business of the Black community unless I am explicitly invited in to participate in that conversation, which occasionally I am because of my, my unique qualifications in terms of speaking on relationships. But traditionally, I have some Black women who follow me who will tag me in manosphere videos. And I'll have to kind of like reach out to them and be like, I appreciate you tagging me in this. I don't think this is my battle to fight. I would direct you to, and then I'll tag maybe some mutuals of mine who are Black men who advocate for the experiences of Black women as best as they can. So it's something that I try to be cognizant of, but I think you make a really good point about red pill being like rejected as a mainstream occurrence, even though in many ways it is, but how in that community, the manosphere is a little bit more mainstreamed. And I think it ties back to, unfortunately, I think it ties back to like racism and colonization and the extent to which many communities that are marginalized in different ways are then attacked and sort of molded into like, you need to fit this like Western centric idea of what a traditional family looks like. And I think unfortunately that the intersection of gendered expectations and racial expectations meets in this like really unfortunate place. And so I don't always know the best way to talk about it because I am not a Black man and I can't speak to that experience. But in listening to some of the other creators who I'm fortunate enough to have as mutuals, they've spoken on these issues and they've articulated that it's a growing concern that needs to be dealt with. And it needs to be dealt with in a way that is different because it's a different community. So I know that's kind of a roundabout way of answering things, but
I respect that you basically know your place, sort of like know your space, because I actually do respect that because that's very important. I just wanted to ask, since like I haven't seen a lot of people with you're in a niche area, so I thought it would be worth it.
Sure.
Oh, and I did remember my fourth question. Sorry. So
okay.
So the idea that these red pill men have that women can't be rejected. It's like one thing they say to women, you don't know what it's like because you can go anywhere and get sex anywhere. And then the women come and say, like, no, we get rejected a lot. And like I said, in the original community, it was filled with women and everything. And then when I was younger, when I actually try to talk to these people, I'd be like, saying some of the experiences, and they would say, oh yeah, there's these other girls that liked me, but I didn't want them. And then go back right to the women who are never rejected. And I'm not saying they should have dated the women. Like, if you don't want them, you don't want them. Is it because of this disconnect where they see women they're not attracted to, or women as status symbols, like they just don't see them as women? Or is it that much of a disconnect, or is there something else going on? So that was my fourth question. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that, and I'm not going to try and step into the mind of someone who's red-pilled, but if I had to guess, I would say that a lot of this stems from the position of, if it is true that these, gorgeous women also get rejected, and they're just like me. And if they're just like me, then that's a problem, right? So like, this is an unbelievably heavy amount of externalized misogyny, where these men simultaneously, again, it's the Madonna whore effect, where it's like, this is Madonna, Madonna would never get rejected. So if Madonna does get rejected, then she must be a whore. Or she could be as lowly as me. And if that's the case, then instead of seeing that as what it really is, which is that like we're not all that different in terms of like the ways in which we act and behave, men and women are relatively similar. Instead, they see that as if I am like them and if they are like me, then what that means is that I'm not the special red pill boy and I'm not the victim.
Yeah.
We're all susceptible to rejection, and they cannot have that. The dissonance is just too strong. They're never going to allow that reality to enter their mind because, again, if everybody can get rejected, then I'm not special. Then society is not against me. Society is just shitty for everyone, which is the objective truth.
All right, thank you.
Also, Marcus, do you have any other final questions?
Oh, I have just the two others, but I didn't know if you didn't want to answer them.
Do you have time for those, Doctor?
I can tell those, and then I'll step away.
Cool.
Thank you. Do you remember them? Do you want me to summarize them real quick?
Yeah, give me them one more time.
All right. So the original sort of red pill started by women. It was a mixed community, supposedly less toxic, but I didn't get a chance to like look at that before it was taken over by like the current red pill and Black people today. Were you able to actually read more about the original community and like get a feel like, was it such a really drastic change with this like new like basically male takeover? And also, what is the one thing you wish outside of red pill, just in relationships in general, what is the one thing you wish like most people knew about relationships? So it seemed like a general misconception.
Okay, I'll answer those in order. To your first question, it reminds me of, there's this TikToker, she's a Black woman, and she does this series called Everything Was Invented by a Black Woman. And it's like, it's funny because like you talk about these things that like you don't think that they have like a history in the Black community, and then you learn that they do. So much in the way that is often true of like pop culture phenomenons, it makes me think of like, yeah, I would not be surprised to learn that the red pill community was started by a woman and then co-opted by men. We have a history, especially in Western culture, of giving credit to men for the accomplishments of women. Arguably, which president was it? One of our presidents, it's been argued by some feminist scholars that one of our presidents actually was not, I mean, he was the president, but that his wife was making the decisions. I can't remember about who it was. I read it
Reagan,
years ago.
Because was it Reagan because he was like dementia? I don't think it was Reagan. I think it was like early 1900s. I can't seem to put my finger on it. I'll find it. Now it's gonna drive me crazy. But I think it's that phenomenon. I think it's like, I wouldn't be surprised I had never heard of that, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn about it at all, that something was created as a means for everybody to just like vent into the void about how shitty dating is. And then a bunch of angry men were like, no, this is ours now. So we're going to take this and we're going to have this. To your second question, and I guess this is a good way for me to sign off. But if there's one thing that I wish more people like just knew about dating in general, it's that like everybody is mentally unwell when it comes to dating. Like we are all out here struggling. Like it does not matter if you are in a committed relationship, if you have been single for 5 years, if you're on the dating scene, it's rough out there for everyone, because at the end of the day, when you're trying to meet people and form relationships, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And when we feel vulnerable, we get scared. And this is true of men, women, of all genders. Behaviorally, statistically, there are not big differences between the ways that men and women carry themselves in relationships. And the differences that we can observe are largely due to social constraints like gender norms, as opposed to biological differences. I'm yet to find a study that offers a biomarker as an explanation for a social behavioral difference between men and women. So if you could find that for me, it would be, it would blow my mind. But even so, that would probably just be one minor little thing. We're not super different. And I wish that these red-pilled maniacs would maybe just take a moment to consider that as a possible option. Thank you so much. And thank you especially for answering all 4 of my questions. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Marcus. All right. Well, Marcus jumped off. And, well, Dr. Stein, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It was an amazing experience. You helped me in being able to have a little more ammunition and quickly being able to respond to red pill arguments, which sometimes takes me a little bit longer than you, where you're just able to go boom, boom, boom. And yeah, it was just really enjoyable. It's great to see other people on the internet that are, working to help people in relationships in the way that you are. So thank you so much. And also the fact that, it's what time is it? It's almost 11 where you are right now. So you stayed up for me.
Oh, no, I'm on mountain time. So it's only 9 o'clock.
Wait, where are you?
But 9 o'clock is.
Are you in Texas?
I'm in Utah.
Oh,
no, I'm in Utah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you were like on the East Coast.
Somehow worse. Well, that's where I'm originally from, New Jersey. So.
Oh, me too.
Oh, nice. Where about?
You know where Morristown is?
Of course.
Yeah. That's where my.
So that was, let's see, Morristown is like half hour north of. I'm from Metuchen, if you're familiar with Metuchen.
I mean, I've heard of it. I'd never been there though.
Yeah.
Wow. So we grew up.
Is the town inside of Edison?
Is it really?
Yeah. Who knew?
Town inside it. Well, I've been to
right
Edison.
In the center. Sure, everyone has.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Now, what would you like to plug? I have your TikTok link in the description, but I haven't listened to it yet, but I really want to based on the TikTok that you made about it. But I really want to listen to your podcast. What is that about?
Yeah, so that's called Red Rock Relationships. It's on YouTube. We have an Instagram and a Facebook. I think we're on Spotify. It is not much like my TikTok at all. It is much more scientific. So I invite professors, scholars, grad students who study interpersonal communication. I invite them on, and we just talk about that sort of stuff. Like this past Friday, we talked about touch and human relationships and how important touch is and what touch can look like and what it can do for our relationships. So that's the general gist of it. The good thing is each episode is only 25 minutes long. So if you're like on a run or just like commuting somewhere, it's like the perfect like little blip, and it's a very chill, relaxing experience. It's not super popular, but I do it because I enjoy doing it. It's mostly for students, and yeah.
And how often do you
I
post
recommend it though. It's fun. So before I was chair of my department, we were doing 12 episodes a season. Right now we're doing 8 episodes a season, and there's 1 season per semester. So I think, it's once every week or other week, or sometimes there's a 3-week gap in between.
Okay, cool.
But right now, at the end of this season, we'll be sitting at about 40 episodes even.
Oh, great.
So,
okay, so fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, bud.
My pleasure.
I'll probably try to get you on the podcast if you'll ever have me again.
No, yeah, I'm happy to come on whenever you need me.
Awesome. Great. I'll be following you on TikTok, and I'm definitely excited to listen to that podcast. Have a good night, bud.
Heck yeah, man. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right. Well, that was great. As I knew, he would just be as intelligent and well-spoken as I had guessed. Yeah. I mean, there's really not a lot for me to there's not a lot of conversation I could have with him because he's so smart and he's so well prepared with what he wants to talk about that it's better for me to just sit and listen. I hope you guys really liked that. I'm not going to do much more for the podcast tonight. I'm going to mention a couple things. One thing I'm really excited about to tell you guys is we're monetized. We got monetized. So Beta's podcast is monetized, which means some great things. One, obviously, I could have ads, which means that I can get paid, which means that I could invest more into the podcast. So hopefully one day I could have like a nice studio and invite people formally, have them come on the studio, make the studio look really cool, not like just some boring table. Also, I'm going to be doing channel membership soon, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be able to give you guys more access. Also fun things like customized emojis, yada, yada, yada. If you know about channel memberships or you've been on Twitch before, very similar. Next week, we got a big star on. His name is Aaron Burris. I'm going to pull him up right now. If you've been following my YouTube channel, you have seen that I posted about him and his wife yesterday, and I'm going to post another one on tomorrow, and I'm going to post another one on Friday. And here he is.
I don't want to have these on when we go to Hawaii.
It's okay if you do.
No, it's
So Aaron is a really great guy. He's been in a relationship with a very big YouTuber named Veronica Merrill of the Merrill Twins fame. They've been in a relationship for about the past 4 years, and recently they have announced that they're not only dating, but they are now married. And they're just both really great people. And I think Aaron is a great example of somebody that doesn't fit red pill ideals, and he is happy and successful in relationships. He's not some alpha male that is leading men all over the world and, you know, all that stuff. So I'm going to bring him on, and perhaps, you know, they live together, so perhaps even Veronica will show up too. If anyone would like to ask Aaron and maybe even Veronica questions about their relationship, anything you want to know, well, DM me, and I'm not just going to bring up anybody, because I want to make sure that they're good questions, they're mature questions, things that Aaron and Veronica would be happy to answer. DM me, and then I'll get you on to the Zoom call if this is something you're interested in. Yeah, so that's that about that. The other cool thing about it is I'm going to start a great Beta's Discord channel server thing. So that's going to be good. Let me go into the Reddit. Remind everybody about the Reddit that I am one of the only lonely people on there. But if you look at the link in the description right of this stream, you'll see there's a link to this Reddit, and that you could post anything you want. You could post questions to me. You could post topics that we've talked about in a recent podcast. You could post memes. You can make memes and post them. You could do all the fun kinds of things. Like, look, Caddy. And look, you could even see that we know that that's Kat. She posted, Zendaya thought she was too tall to play MJ in Spider-Man. Let's investigate.
I guess when I first met you, like I said, I was worried that I was going to be too tall. for the role. I thought that like this, like I'm just gonna look ridiculous. But then there were chairs.
There were chairs. I think they probably knew that you were taller than me, though.
So they
I mean, who
incorporated
knows?
chairs?
No, I mean, I didn't like tell them my height, you know. So it's not like I was like, hey, I'm Zendaya, I'm 5'10", you know. It's like I just came in and I was like, oh,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But it ended up working out, and I think our height difference is one of the cool things about
I love
Peter
it. I
and
absolutely
MJ.
love it.
I guess when I
Boom,
first
there you go.
met you, like.
Shouldn't Zendaya, the most famous woman in the world at this moment, shouldn't she want somebody that's taller than her? What's the deal? Why does she want short king beta male Tom Holland? Confusing. Yeah, look, I post things and then there's no comments. It just makes me feel bad. I'm in there for you. I'm watching it. Let's see what else we want to talk about. Oh, another fun thing I'd like to do is I'd like to put out some merch. I was thinking, like, think about that Betas logo and then think about it in like really like looking like a rock, like an 80s metal band t-shirt, you know, with like maybe like the tour dates on the back of the shirt. Just make it really dope. I just thought that would be a fucking dope t-shirt, baby. Maybe even some like beanies or something. I like the logo. I don't know about you guys. It was a vision I had that I manifested in like an hour. Let's see what we said about the podcast poll. Would you realistically come to LA for a Betas event in 2022? And the answer is 43% say yes, which is 23 votes. So if I take 23 and then I multiply it by 0.43, that's 10 people. So 10 people would come to a Betas event. That's pretty good to start off, considering that this podcast is so new. I wonder how many people already live in LA. I know that Gal does. I think Daniela does too. I'm not sure who else in this room, but you know, I feel like that would be fun. I don't want to do it so soon. Maybe in the summertime. I think that might be fun. And once this podcast maybe gets a little more momentum. You never know. You never know. Ricky's going to come. He lives in San Fran. Pobed lives here. So we got a handful of people. What's up, Zachary? Zachary Wensler says, new to your podcast, hello. So how did you find this podcast and why are you here? Gal, I've been working on it. The name pronunciation. Is that how Gal Gadot says it too? Yeah, I feel like there's more things that I wanted to talk about. But I think they say, oh, Michael. Oh yeah, Michael. Hey, Michael's here. Michael did a mock date last week. Michael's in LA. Yeah. So I think that's about it. We're going to be streaming again this Thursday. Pretty sure it's just going to be a nice traditional episode. Me reacting to fun shit. Doing a little mock dates, doing a little textual healing, some dating stories, and some Q&A with me. Having a lot of fun. You guys are why this podcast exists. You are why this podcast is entertaining. As you could see, I'm not a very entertaining person. I mean, look, this is me. This is me 90% of the day. So, it's really you guys coming up for mock dates, coming up for telling stories. coming up and asking me questions where I could like dive into the back of my brain and go, oh yeah, here's an answer. Matthias, it is not realistic to get Courtney on a podcast, but if you DM her and ask her, there's a possibility. I can ask her, but I know that Courtney Ryan is blowing up right now on YouTube, and usually people that are blowing up, they don't want to collaborate with somebody smaller than them. That is just the reality of the situation. Oh, nice. Zach came based on a Reacts video that I plugged the podcast in. Yeah, I got Ron Gall. I'm excited about it. It's been a long journey. Oh, you know who else I'd like to get on here? Jess and Gabe. I was talking about them in a recent video. I think it was the video yesterday. Because Jess and Gabe know who I am. They reacted to 2 of my reactions to them. Because the fandom is strong with them. So the fans were begging them to react to my videos of them. So they reacted to 2 videos of mine. So they're very big. And they're huge on Instagram too. So I don't even know if they'll see my message. But I'm going to email them. And we'll see. Because that would be so fun to get Jess and Gabriel on there. Pobed, you know the answer. Craig Ferguson. Matthias, there was a podcast last Thursday, I'm pretty sure. I was gone for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months, but I'm back now. I got that consistency. So important that, you know, we build a community here. Like I said, the red pill community, you know, it is, or and also the manosphere, it's way too dark and big. It's important to build something and to invite others, you know? So if you have friends, if you have a community on the internet, invite others to come on to this podcast, watch it live, you know, join us in the live chat. Because there's really not a lot of places to go for people that want to learn relationship skills in a real way without grifting and bias involved. That just builds on people's anger and fear. Let's see. Grizzly says, big YouTubers not wanting to collaborate with small YouTubers. YouTuber hypergamy. How realistic is it to have Jesse James West in one of his recent videos? He mentioned res pillars were messaging him that he is a simp. That's the best, because Jesse James West is a fucking baller. He's charming as hell. He's thoughtful. He's positive. He's kind. He's confident as all fuck. He has a Greek god body. He's got the jawline that goes out a mile. And you were able to watch in his YouTube videos the progression of how he got into a relationship with his girlfriend. And then red pills go, you're a simp. You're a simp. Like, what? What? Like, what? And yes, listen, anytime I'm confused, it's just kids. I get it. It's fucking children. If they were ever here face to face with me, I go, okay, I get it. But still. Okay, so I was in the DMs with Devon, what's her name? Brandon Walsh's girlfriend. Devonina. We were chatting But then I asked her to come on the podcast, and then she ghosted. So she's not interested in coming on the podcast. Though I could reach out to the other people in the Walsh universe. Ricky, Corey Wayne is a loser. I mean, it's pretty obvious just watching his videos. This is, hi, I'm Corey Wayne, and today I'm going to tell you how to be an alpha male. Like, it's just, look at him. I mean, aside from the crap that he says, it's just basic crap. He's just so weird. He's so fucking awkward. Hi, I'm Corey Wayne. What the fuck? Who's following that going, this guy's got it. Yeah, Ty, Jesse James West basically is a Chad. But, I mean, if he wasn't like so ripped, I mean, he wouldn't be considered a Chad. I mean, he's very strong. But like, what I'm saying is like, he's very charming. I've made videos analyzing him. Like, he's a very charming guy. He's got it going on. Gal, I am going to react to the new season of Too Hot to Handle. I'm just kind of trying to be a little more thoughtful about what I put out on my channel, so there's a little more consistency in the viewership. I don't want to cannibalize my viewership by putting out things that people may not really care about. I want to put out things on that main channel that a lot of people care about. And then on this channel here, we could go into more of like the nitty gritty of like underworlds of subcultures and stuff like that. Honestly, Sydney asked if I can get Trisha Paytas. One, I don't think she would come on. I did make a video about her. It did get like, I think like over 100,000 views. So based on what I know of Trisha, I feel like she's seen the video. That being said, I don't think she would come on. And two, I don't want her on. I mean, she is a verified narcissist. She's not somebody that you want to get into a conversation with, even like any relationship with. I don't think it would be productive whatsoever. I mean, outside of just entertainment value, I don't think it would be productive whatsoever. Marcus the Woo asked, what do you think of Charisma on Demand YouTube channel? Like I've said before, I've reacted to their videos in the past. It's okay. And like I said, I'm so happy that that is one of the most popular channels on social skills and relationships. But it doesn't quite hit the mark in a lot of ways. And it's largely because the people that are making the videos aren't experienced in relationships and dating. So a lot of it comes from assumptions. But I'm very, very glad that that's not a red pill channel like fucking 95% of what's out there. Yeah. So I'd say like it's okay. And I see a lot of people saying they love Charisma on Command. Yeah, there's some stuff that's good. You know, like I said, it's just sometimes he doesn't hit the mark exactly. And I'm like, ugh, something's wrong there. Like, why would you say something like that? Also, just in terms of experience in dating, I mean, I think there's like a video of the guy, Charlie, showing like him approaching like a woman on the street. And it was just like awful. Like it was embarrassing for him. He humiliated himself. It was like really bad. And it's like, why are you putting out videos of you talking to people? Why are you making videos of giving dating advice when you can't even interact with strangers? I'm just reading your comments, guys. I'm just reading your live chats with me. Oh, let's check out the poll. 26 votes, 42%. Yeah, so about 10 people are able to make it. I'm going to end the poll now. Eliza asked if I got a haircut. I did get a haircut, but I'm very haircut lazy, so I'll probably just not get a haircut until it's super long again. And then start getting annoyed because I have a lot of dandruff and it starts falling out, because when it gets long, I didn't know this, that hair just falls out. And it gets like greasy easily, and it gets hot. And it's like long hair looks nice, but like it's not fun. It's so much more relaxing to just do that. Ty, that video is nowhere near his Charisma on Command channel. He would never show that to the public. You're going to have to dig deep for that. Actually, let me see if I can find it. Why not just look it up right now? Let's see what we could find. I think he reacted to it on his podcast. But let me see what else we got. Here, let me just go on YouTube. Let's see what we got here.
So you mentioned the power of editing.
Yes.
And we had a common question on our podcast that we ignored for a little bit because we weren't sure what to do about it. Someone made a video that was incredibly critical. It was a canceled Charlie video. And it really, to me, showed the power of editing.
Mm-hmm.
And we shot a podcast on it a little bit ago. And then we didn't share it.
I've just looked through
because the person had said
and it's not in
that
here.
they were considering making a second one. And we did.
Here we go.
Crisis can happen unexpectedly to anyone. And though it may...
Charlie Hilbert describes himself as someone who used to be extremely shy, especially around women, to the point of being voted most likely to break out of...
Why?
So, as I was looking through more of his content, I was thinking,
hopefully nothing terribly inappropriate here.
But then I found this footage. He's talking about how great he is and how all of this is like a teachable moment.
You ready?
What?
Oh, hey, sorry, this is completely out of the blue. You are stunning.
Dude, you get there and she's immediately walking away from you. Like, what's the lesson there?
Let's watch that again.
Blue, you are stunning.
Dude, you get there and she's immediately walking away from you. Like, what's the lesson there?
She laughs and she actually takes a step continuing in the direction that she was going. This is really, really common.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not really, really common. When you go up to somebody to talk to them, say hello, have a conversation with somebody, they usually say hi and then talk to you. But she was laughing uncomfortably. I mean, if you thought that was laughing because she's like, oh my God, and she was walking away.
Pretty sure she wants to be left alone.
She can't help but smile, giggle, laugh, and just be sort of stunned.
Oh, she was stunned.
This is how you know that you've done it right.
That's nervous laughter, as far as I can tell.
Yes.
I mean, you have no idea what to expect from someone who comes up to you on the street.
What are you up to in the city? Does this happen to you all the time, by the way? How many times does this happen to...
He didn't even have her answer the question. What are you doing in the city? By the way, blah, blah, blah.
from that side of the park to this side. You can be honest.
First time. This is the best you could do, and she's still trying to walk away from you. How are those psychological tricks working out for you? Seriously, how many times did you have to film it where it didn't go like this?
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out, remember that this
Weird
man
that was the
is
best
31.
example.
He's not just some college kid full of hormones on spring break. He's been out of college for years, and he still thinks the absolute coolest thing you could ever do in life is brag about almost kissing someone who's like giving you the cold shoulder and going after women in women's shoe stores. Like, you're just really creepy.
So, by the way, the whole pickup artist world was about before like online dating got so huge and all of that stuff. It was about finding women in public, approaching them, and then trying to hook up with them as soon as possible. The problem is that approaching strangers randomly in public is a very inefficient way to date somebody, start a relationship. It just is. Why? There's very little context between the two of you. So in order to get two people interested in starting a relationship, whether that be a one-night stand or a 20-year relationship, there needs to be context created. Creating context instead of just having it embedded in the environment, in the circumstance, is something that takes a lot more effort, and it takes a lot more actual social skills and charm than usual. So what was the reason for the popularity of the pickup artist movement? It actually was not for efficiency and ease and results. It was actually just another video game thing. It was just another challenge. It's like a sport. Sports aren't supposed to be easy, right? We watch sports because they're difficult. We play sports because they're difficult. If you were playing basketball with a 3-year-old, you're not interested in playing and actually getting enjoyment out of the challenge itself. So it's actually the sport of pickup that's so interesting. For people that are actually just interested in meeting people, starting relationships, dating, you wouldn't just approach strangers. Now, that being said, should you not interact with strangers in public? Of course you should. Of course you should. However, do so when there's context involved. However, again, when you're just walking around looking to approach strangers just to get them attracted to you for the sport, there's no context involved. The only context is, I want you to be attracted to me while you're shopping for shoes. I want you to be attracted to me while you're on your lunch break trying to relax before you got to go back to work for 5 more hours. It's hard to create that context. It's just inefficient. It's a sport. And basically what Charlie was doing is, on his website, he sells, I guess, a pickup artist course, and he was trying to demonstrate his pickup artist prowess in that video. So I want to go back to it. I mean, I just want to show you how horrendous it is. He was very nervous, and he was trying to come off charismatic. Charisma and charm, they're two different things. Charisma is more about being performative. It's more about basically coming off a little more alpha, coming off a little bit more of the leader, coming off of somebody with high value. Unfortunately, that is not what attracts people. coming off high value does attract people in terms of them being interested in you or maybe wanting to follow you, kind of like a politician or a guru. However, it does not attract somebody in terms of having a connection with them, sexual attraction, all that type of stuff. Where charm, it actually does. Now, if you notice, what he was trying to do is he was trying to be charismatic by coming up with fun things to say to her. The other part of charisma is that it's inherently a performance. Once again, a guru or a politician speaking to a big crowd. It's a performance, big arm movements, very big and loud and ha ha ha. You know, when you see like Donald Trump doing his speeches that he's always doing at these rallies, that's a lot of charisma, right? So, sorry, first of all, don't approach with sorry, because what you're automatically doing is you're telling her or you're telling whoever you're talking to that what you are about to say is going to make that person feel upset, and you are already apologizing for it. There's no reason to apologize. If you're going and you're just going to make friends with somebody, you're going to have a fun conversation with somebody, there should be no apology. Rationalizing why you're there is okay. I know this is completely out of the blue. That's okay, but once again, it's an insecure thing. It's for you. It's not for them. They don't care that you're saying that it's out of the blue. Just fucking say what you want to say. So one, it's an apology. Two, it's a rationalization to make himself feel more secure with what he wants to say to her. And then you are fucking stunning. So a big rule is generally not to comment on a person's beauty, especially when you first meet them. Now, that being said, as you know, I'm huge on expressing your attraction to people once it warrants it. When does it warrant it? It warrants it when that person believes that you actually like them for them. What so often happens is when somebody approaches another person and they approach with, you are fucking stunning, whatever it is, their looks, it's more obvious that that person is doing that because they're looking for validation. They're looking to have them for their beauty, which, what is that? That's objectification, right? So when you're seeing that person as an object, that's another thing that people that are insecure do because they are not able to see the person that they're about to talk to as another human. That is a detachment from the world, from the person that you're interacting with. A confident, happy, secure person sees other people as humans, so they're able to interact with them. As such, they're able to interact with them, and like I say it all the time, as their best friend. They don't have to say sorry, they don't have to rationalize, and they don't have to objectify. Now, once you do chat for maybe a couple minutes, then once it's clear that that person is not objectifying you, it's clear that this person actually sees you as a person, sees you beyond just the facade, complimenting their looks is warranted. Right? Because it's no longer an objectification. It's an actual statement of real attraction. How could you be attracted to somebody before you even interact with them? Because attraction doesn't work like, this person looks like this, now I'm attracted. No. It's a mixture of everything. It's a mixture of looks. It's a mixture of personality. It's a mixture of shared values and interest and all that stuff put together. So when you compliment their beauty, when you compliment their looks, they know it's all connected. Oh, guys,
the lesson there.
I wasn't even showing the video.
And she actually takes a step continuing in the direction that she was going. This is really, really...
So let's...
Nothing terrible.
Because I'm so stupid and I wasn't actually showing the video footage, I'll just play it again right now.
inappropriate here.
But then I found this footage. He's talking about how great he is and how all of this is like a teachable moment.
You ready?
What?
Hey, sorry, this is completely out of the blue.
So
You
completely
are
out of the fucking blue.
stunning.
Sorry, this is completely out of the blue. You are stunning.
Dude, you get there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she wants to be left alone.
She can't help, and she actually takes a step continuing in the direction that she was going. This is really, really common.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she wants to be left alone.
She can't help but smile, giggle, laugh, and just be sort of stunned.
The reason why she's smiling, giggling, laughing as she's walking away is because she feels threatened. She feels scared. She feels uncomfortable. And she's scared that if this very tall man with broad shoulders, if she gave a negative reaction to him, he might get pissed. And who knows what, this is New York City. Who knows what this person could do? This person could be not well. So the polite smiling and laughing is a way to politely get out of the way safely.
This is how you know that you've done it right.
That's nervous laughter, as far as I can tell. I mean, you have no idea what to expect from someone who comes up to you in the street.
What are you up to in the city?
Okay, so what are you up to in the city? She's just about to respond.
Happen to you all the time, by the way? How many times this happened since you got from that side of the park?
Okay, so the next thing he did, which is incredibly insecure. Does this happen to you all the time, by the way? How many times has this happened to you since you got from there to over here? What he can't seem to accept is that he is speaking to somebody that he deems beautiful. And what he's trying to do is to get her to see, oh, this guy gets it. This guy gets that I'm hot and that guys hit on me. So he's not like all the others. However, what he's really doing is showing how he has zero experience with women that he finds beautiful. Because think about it. If he regularly interacted and had relationships with women that he found as beautiful as she did, he probably wouldn't have to talk about this shit, would he? He'd probably just talk to her. So far, they haven't had a conversation yet. So far, it's just more rationalization to why he's there, to appease himself, to make him feel better about himself.
You can be honest.
First time. This is the...
So she's laughing in discomfort, but she knows that he's not going to give up easily. So she did commit to an actual face-to-face interaction for a few minutes while still giggling.
Best you could do, and she's still trying to walk away from you. How are those psychological tricks working out for you? Seriously, how many times did you have to film it where it didn't go like this?
So, a few seconds of an interaction, right? But horrible. And then further, and let's not forget this, that this is hidden camera footage. So, you could say, yeah, well, you know, he's doing it for the betterment of people's social skills and dating skills. But, like, what if she knew that she was being filmed to show his sexual prowess? Oh, yo, how fucking gross is that shit? Oh, don't worry, we blurred out her face. Who gives a shit? Like, fucking creepy as hell, dude. You're literally filming yourself try to hook up with women. What the fuck, dude? Now, that being said, I guess this was 2019, and I guess the video was posted maybe a year or two before that. So that was still in a time where pickup artistry was pretty popular, and especially on YouTube, what they call in-field pickup. In other words, what pickup artists would refer to as like going into real life and talking to people. And so that was very popular on YouTube. YouTube has taken it down. You know, it's very hard to find in-field footage, pickup artists talking to strangers. Why? Because it's fucking creepy as shit. And a lot of it is fake. And like the person in this video said, how many takes did you have to get until you got this one? And that's another thing about these pickup artists in-field footage, is that they film a shitload, like a ton of these approaches, and most of them are bad. And then there's one where maybe they get a phone number. And once again, a phone number, like literally you could go up to anybody and in a few minutes get their phone number. It has nothing to do with anything. But to people that are inexperienced with interacting with strangers in public, getting a phone number feels like something. It feels real. It feels wow, an accomplishment. There's some sort of tangible, well, even though a phone number isn't tangible, but you understand what I'm saying. There's some sort of reward you gained, an accomplishment, an achievement. Once again, playing a video game, you got to a certain level. So it makes people feel good to see that somebody would get a phone number, even though a phone number is like, it's literally nothing. It's nothing. It's usually a way for people, especially in interactions like this, circumstances like this, it's a way for a woman to get out of the conversation, making the guy think that he's got something when she just ejected early by giving a phone number. Yeah, that was a few seconds, but somebody like me that has been studying social skills and interactions, like obsessed with it all my life, it's really bad. It's very embarrassing stuff. Now, that being said, okay, Charisma on Command is the best of the worst in terms of dating skills. It has very little like red pill toxic shit that is going to like ruin somebody's dating and relationship life, which is most stuff on the internet. It's a lot of positive stuff. It's a lot of stuff that I agree with. And like a handful of things that I don't agree with, which I think is just based in the fact that he's looking to get videos out, and he knows that if you just say things with confidence, people are going to listen to you and it's going to sound really good, even though you may not have the experience to actually say this stuff. So that's that. I'm going to check out the chat right now. I hate that sometimes I'm like reacting to something and then I'm on full screen and I'm like, well, I'm such an idiot. See, this is why I need to get monetized. I need a producer. So let's check out the chat. Oh, you know what I could do? No, forget it. I don't need to do that. Actually, let me do it. It'll be fun. Let's see. Boom. See? I'm smart. Okay. Zachary Wensler says, do you think that it's still useful to some of the social skills that Neil Strauss demonstrates in the game? No. The game is a piece of shit book. It's really stupid. The only good thing that came out of pickup artistry, which does not come out of Red Pill, is with pickup artistry, they're at least telling you to get the fuck out and go talk to people, go socialize, go approach people. At the very just like basic level, that's the good thing that pickup artistry teaches. But the advice is stupid. Like peacocking, and there's just so much stupid shit. It's so cheesy. Oh, yeah, by the way, Daniela says, stopping someone while they're clearly walking somewhere is not the best move, in my opinion. Yeah, so basically, just inefficient strategy for starting relationships, right? Now, I lived in New York for 6 years. The last thing I would do is go out and approach strangers. Last thing I would do. Incredibly inefficient. Now, if Charlie actually knew what he was doing, and he actually was going to give good advice to people, he would say, get the fuck out of the park. Go make friends. Go make friends that you think are cool. Give to those friends. Make them love you as much as you love them. And then meet their friends. And then meet their friends. And then every morning when you wake up, because you have invested into so many relationships, every morning when you wake up, you could open your phone, you could open Instagram, you could open your texts, and you will have different communities, different social circles that you have started, that you have grown, that you have joined, that you could tap into. That you could text a friend and say, hey, what's going on tonight? Let's do something. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to go to my friend's birthday party. It's his girlfriend's birthday party. Want to come? Yeah, I want to come. I want to come to your friend's girlfriend's birthday party. I really do. Or, I mean, there's a billion examples. But the incredibly inefficient, why are you giving advice to approach strangers in the street? Now, that being said, if you just want to learn social skills, if you want to get over fears, if you want to build social muscles, yeah, like I said, approaching strangers in public is great. It's fun to do. And once in a while, you could meet somebody great. Like, you should just do it in your daily life. You should be talking to people all over the place throughout your daily life, saying hi, being friendly, meeting people. But to specifically go out as a strategy for dating, bad, inefficient, just bad results. It's just makes no sense. So what else we got in the chat? Oh, by the way, another thing about Charlie is, like, he's very good looking. Like, you could obviously tell he's very tall, he's fit, and he's got a great face. So for him, this is another problem, is that guys that are very good looking, they kind of have a skewed idea of how social skills works because things are going to come to them a little more easily. So advice that they give is not going to apply for a lot of people. So I don't think Conan would be considered charming. I mean, I love Conan, but I would consider Conan funny. Conan's hilarious, but I don't think he's charming. Aldis says, I remember someone said the stuff in the game worked, but he said it makes you an asshole. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Anything that works in that is confirmation bias. It worked because you were going out and talking to a ton of people and approaching a lot, which is something you don't usually do. And then you go, oh, yeah, because I said that thing, that's why she liked me. No, it's just because the numbers game, you went up to enough people and one of them liked you. Cool. Yeah, I think I read all of the chat. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. I will see you on Thursday. I don't know. I'll come up with some fun stuff to react to. We'll talk about, obviously, like I said, you guys are the podcast. I am not this podcast. You guys are the podcast. So I want to thank you for being here. You make me very happy. When you guys come on the Zoom and we do all of those fun things, that's what makes this podcast. It's not me. So remember that. Invite friends here. We're building a community. Once I get monetized for channel memberships, which is coming very soon, I'm going to create the betas Discord so you guys could interact in there all the time too. Yep. Before I go, BB says, help an introvert. Can you suggest some tips on changing the conversation to yourself when you're talking to a highly extroverted person who talks about themselves the whole time? No. I would just say don't talk to that person. I mean, yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, I probably would have said, okay, here's how you do it. Here, blah, blah. But now that I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, there's a billion people that you could be talking to. And if you're just not vibing naturally, why are you wasting your time? Unless you want to be like that person and you want to start relationships with highly extroverted people. Oh, I'll teach you social skills. Great. But why are you wasting your time? Just not efficient. Just go find, you know what's really efficient? Find people that you're really good at talking to. That's it.